Hey folks, this is Bailey from Dank Wargaming.
Hey, this is Heath with Team Tableware Hawaii.
And welcome to the Path to Redemption, the Warhammer 40,000 Dark Angels podcast, where our aim is to help Dark Angels players get the hobby and tactical skills that they need in order to enjoy this wonderful hobby of ours. On this month's podcast, the November podcast, we're going to cover a wide range of the new hobby-related releases from Games Workshop that are up for pre-order this weekend, as we're recording this on the night of Halloween. And then we're also going to take a look at two high finishes for Dark Angels players in two major events that have happened in the last month. And then Heath and I are going to reflect upon some of our own personal tournament results, because this is like the first time we've had a podcast where we both played a tournament in the same month. It just hasn't happened yet.
For sure.
So this is exciting. And then we're going to see who actually completed their monthly challenge, because the results might shock you. All right, so going into new releases, one of the big things for me, because I had to get Warhammer Plus for Gen Con, or I was asked to get it while I was there so I could use some of the training tutorials, and so I watched it, and then I canceled it a couple days ago because I ran out of things to watch.
Fair.
Because I really wasn't into the tutorials. I just wanted to watch Hammer and Bolter, which is really, really good, and Blood of Angels, or whatever the
Angels of
Blood
Death.
Angels
of Death, yeah.
Angels of Death. And so Games Workshop is giving away 2 free weeks of Warhammer Plus right now if you go to the Warhammer community page in honor of Warhammer Day. And yeah, go binge watch both those because they're both really, really good. So go ahead and take advantage of that if you haven't yet. I know there's a new episode of Angels of Death that's either coming out this week or last week, so I definitely want to get it and watch that. There's a limited edition Primaris Lieutenant, so just what everybody needed. A new Primaris Lieutenant.
Looks pretty good. Looks good.
Yep, he kind of has sort of a similar pose to the captain that came in the Indomitus box.
Yeah, with the Relic Storm Shield.
Yep, and he's about $35. Now I don't play the Aeronautica Imperialis, or is it Imperialis Aeronautica? One of the two. Whatever the flying game is.
Yeah.
Okay. But the Plastic Thunderhawk and the Plastic Fire Raptors are both out $42. So you've got like a Fire Raptor squad of 2, and then you have the Thunderhawk on its own, and those are both $42. So if you play that game and you want to represent the Dark Angels in there, those things are now available. There's this new spray stick that's Games Workshop's promoting on the hobby side. It's at $23.
Come on, man.
So if you want to put your guys...
no. I don't know. It seems silly to me. You can get a paint.
There's a lot of ways to do it.
You get a paint stirrer from Home Depot and just spray adhesive. I don't know. Maybe there's a thing for it that I haven't realized, but it seems that XL paint holder, which is next on the list, that I could actually. Hey, $18 for a paint handle that will hold a dreadnought, like a full-on dreadnought.
Yeah.
I think I heard that it will actually hold a knight.
Yes, it goes up to like 170
That's
millimeters.
Crazy.
So like the big bases.
Yeah.
And for $12.50, there's a sub-assembly holder that's also sort of larger scaled. And there's also an assembly stand for $27. So, the sub-assembly holder is the So there's the holder, which is for the big things, and the sub-assembly holder is like. It's got like these little pins, and you can like put your Space Marine head on the top of it, because I know a lot of people like to do their heads separate from the rest of the model.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a special spot on the sprayer for those sub-assembly holder bits. So I know some people are really into sub-assembly. It's not really my thing unless it's something really big. That's usually how I do it. Or things I know, like stuff in cages, where I know I can't get back to it.
Most people I see do like the heads is they'll just like just get a bunch of like wine corks and little bits of wire or little dowel rods, and just make yourself a bunch of little holders without a wine corks, and then a little bit of super glue, just stick the head onto the end of that. But the sub-assembly holder, it's basically it fits. It's like the bottom of it is about like a normal 32 mil base size, and it's just a little like cone that ends in something that you can put a small assembly on. I agree about sub-assemblies. Like if you're the weapon sponson for a tank, yeah, absolutely sub-assemble that. Mostly it's anything that's going to be a strikingly different color, and you don't want to have to get real tight about masking. absolutely. Like I used to do hatches differently, like the way my would paint the hatches on my predators and land raiders and stuff. Like the green hatch ring, and then
Oh yeah.
the doors would actually be bone color. And to make sure that I got them nice and
Oh
crisp and
yeah.
clean, I would do them separately. But I don't know if I need a $15 little doohickey to do that. But
Right. And it's some for some people that's if that's what's there and that's what they know how to do, it'll work for them. That's sort of the just seems to be the Games Workshop hobby game plan. It's like, you don't have to go anywhere else. I mean, we've got the hobby handles,
Yeah.
we've got the snips, we've got the brushes.
we're gonna
I
keep
mean, sure, you could go and try and figure it out.
we're gonna keep you in house. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go figure it out on your own, but that's where like people like Heath and I come in, and lots of other people that do content creation, where they're like, "Hey, this is what else you can do."
Yeah.
All right, speaking about other things you can do, looking at MetaWatch this month, Joel Wilson got 7th place at SoCal Open with a Dark Angels list. So the big thing for SoCal for people to keep in mind in terms of placings is that they played several rounds, like 2 days worth of rounds. So I'm assuming like 6 rounds.
I think it was a 6-round event, and then
Yeah,
the top.
and then they
16,
went to a top 8 cut.
Yeah, the top 16.
Oh, top 16.
No, it was top 8. Yeah, it was top 8. The top
Okay.
8 from that went into a final day, which was basically a 3-round single elimination.
Yeah, and that's always important to remember. And so Joel got into that, and then because he ended up in 7th, and you go look on BCP, like that's all. The only score he's got is that he got there and lost round 1 of the knockout, and that's how it was.
Mm-hmm.
But he got there with 1 loss, I think, in the earlier rounds. So good job for him to getting to the cutoff with a 1 loss, because it seemed like it was a pretty big event for the year.
Yeah, it was a full on super
considering.
major, 250 plus people. So
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
And there's a lot of I don't want to say controversy or controversy or whatever you want to say around it. That's with the orc buggy list, the leaf blower 9.0, tabled Sean Naden in the bottom of turn 1. But there's a lot of context behind that and why that happened. Basically, they figured, hey, I need to build a list that can beat what the meta is, which is Admech and Drukhari.
Yeah.
And they ended up against Drukhari. It's like, hey, this list is tailor-made to beat you, and I've practiced doing this specific matchup, and that's what happened. So, but this guy Joel is on the same team as the guy that beat Sean, and he apparently, from the narrative I heard from the Long War, they brought this list like oops all Terminators as kind of the counterpoint to that orc buggy list. If you don't mind, I can just run down this list real quick.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
It's a Deathwing Vanguard with Ezekiel and Lazarus. Remember what I said? Was it last week or the week before about Lazarus? Like, if you think you're going to have an issue with mortal wounds, you're going to take Lazarus.
Oh yeah.
Here you go. Right.
He's going to start showing up more because orcs do mortal wounds, Grey Knights, Thousand Suns all do mortal wounds, so he's going to become a more powerful asset.
And Drukhari can put out a lot of mortal wounds too, with the horror effects spam. So that's what they call them these days. Horfex was actually, I think, a 3rd edition piece of war gear, but whatever. So, Zeke and Lazarus, and Zeke had Mindworm, Aversion, and Engulfing Fear. So Engulfing Fear is the one that attacks your OBSEC. Aversion is -1 to hit and debuffs your attacks when you're within 6 inches of him. And Mindworm makes you fight last. And Ezekiel also, remember, gives the aura of you're always under the effect of Shock Assault. So +1 attack
he's
if you're
running.
Yeah.
Well, he's also he's a chief librarian who's cheaper than building one on your own, and then he has
comes in
3 relic abilities.
4-up invul save,
that on
the super pistol, the super sword, the +1 to cast. Anyway, we've been very high on Ezekiel on this show for a long time for good reason. But then his elites, a Blade Guard Ancient who is the actual warlord. And his warlord traits were Watched and Steadfast Example. So I also remember we said, hey, if you think that psychic powers should be an issue for you, look out for Watched.
Yep.
So here it is. So 1 board-wide auto-deny once per game. So that's good. And then Chapter Ancient, he's got the Pennant of Remembrance, so he can throw -1 damage on any one of those Deathwing squads. And then
always good.
He's got 6 Blade Guard vets, and then a unit of 10 Deathwing Terminators with 2 Cyclones and 3 Thunderhammers, and then a whole bunch. And then everyone who doesn't have a Thunderhammer has a Chain Fist. And then he's got another unit of Deathwing Terminators with 4 Thunderhammers and a bunch of Chain Fists and 2 Cyclones, and then another unit of Terminators with 6 Thunderhammer Storms, 5 Thunderhammer Storm Shield, all the rest are Chain Fists, and 2 Cyclones. And then a Ravenwing Apothecary, who's the chief, with a Reliquary of their Pennant, and Decisive Tactician for +1 to charge.
Oh, yep, and advance, right?
Yeah, but he's not the Chief Apothecary, which is interesting.
Oh.
Which is an interesting, tech choice. So, if you think about it,
and Chain Fist makes you automatically do do 3 damage against vehicles. So that's
3 damage against vehicles. I also think it's AP -4.
That's also good.
So I'm thinking Chain Fist. I like Chain Fists. I think I might probably put 1 or 2 of them into the Relic Terminator squads in the future. But yeah, so this can break down. This is 4 max units of Deathwing, 30 Terminators, and 6 Blade Guard. So this will break down into 8 combat squads if you need it, 6 of which are OBSEC. And Steadfast Example, if you remember, Steadfast Example doubles your OBSEC. So this is I'm going to take probably Banners. I'm gonna take Stubborn Defiance, and you're just not gonna move me. With this many Terminators, I'd believe it. I would believe it. So yeah, interesting list. It's a lot of Terminators.
Yeah, I like it.
It's a lot of Terminators.
Yeah.
And a lot of Storm Shields.
Well, and looking on to the Come the Apocalypse GT, where Robert Birmingham got 4th place, I wasn't able to find any place where his list was posted, but it just says more all Deathwing here from Goonhammer. Goonhammer, since this was in the Best of the Rest section, they didn't actually post the list, but I definitely wanted to give him a shout out since he got to 4th place in this GT. Now, it does say that there were some Deathwing Knights, so that's a little bit different from this list, and Deathwing Knights are still good because they all have Storm Shields, and they all have those maces that don't have the -1 to hit, but they give you the ×2 strength, and they do a bunch of damage, and have high AP, and then you add the Assault Doctrine on top of it, and then they have their own stratagem for killing big things.
Yep.
And then they just have sort of your generic Terminator things, like they get the +1 to hit stratagem and things like that.
I'm gonna see if I can find this his list real quick.
All right.
Think of that ahead of time, but put that.
Oh, and the big thing too is he was 4-1. He lost his only game. He lost his second game, and he had 90 points. And the number of times I've gotten to 90 points is essentially 0. So to think of someone getting to 90 points in a 9th edition game and still losing, like, what a game that must have been.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a heartbreaker. All right,
like, I'm impressed.
Okay. And got it. Let's take a look. So, Deathwing Vanguard with Ezekiel, Mindworm, Aversion, and Righteous Repugnance to reroll all hits and wounds. Then 5 Deathwing Knights. Looks like a squad of 5 Deathwing Terminators, 5 with a pair of Lightning Claws, 5 with Thunderhammer Storm Shield, and a Watcher in the Dark. Okay. And then that same unit again. And that same unit again. So 30 Terminators, 15 with Thunderhammer Storm Shield, and 15 with double Lightning Claws. And then your Chief Apothecary with Reliquary of their Penitent. And then he also has another Vanguard detachment, which has a Chaplain, an Interrogator Chaplain, and Terminator armor with Decisive Technician.
Oh, that's neat.
Master of Sanctity, the Cup of Retribution, which is the +1 aura for attacks that does stack with Shock Assault.
That's once per game.
Yep. Wise Orator,
Right.
Decisive Tactician, Litany of Faith, Canonical Hate, and Cup of Retribution. And he's got a Blade Guard Ancient with Watched and the Pennant of Remembrance. And then 2 Deathwing Command Squads with Stormbolter, Power Sword, and Para Lightning Claws in each. So just some little action monkey, 70-point action monkey unit. So this feels a little more aggressive than Joel's list.
Yeah,
because you've got the cup.
Definitely punchier.
Yeah, you've got the cup. That's gonna really the only reason to use it is if it's to punch up the number of attacks that you're gonna get on the charge to stack with Shock Assault. And those pair of Lightning Claws, remember that's +1 attack per Lightning Claw. So a Terminator is gonna have 4 attacks base +1 on the charge, 5 attacks.
Strength 4, re-rolling all wounds.
Yeah.
So it's good for clearing out those chaff T3 models that you're seeing if you're playing against a lot of Skitarii or a lot of Sisters. Like, these guys are what eat them.
They'll actually do a lot of work against because they'll actually do a lot of work against light vehicles too, like orc buggies. You can just put so many attacks through, and with the built-in rerolls.
Yeah.
And if necessary, you throw your +1 to hit stratagem for Fury the First. You can they'll do some work. One of the guys I played in my tournament played orc buggies, and my Lightning Claw Terminators got in there and just did the chippy chop, did the job. So. Not against Iron Hand's Dreadnoughts, though. That did not work as well.
No.
Anyways,
yeah. Either do multi-meltas, apparently.
No, I can tell that story in a bit. But yeah, oops, all Terminators. Yeah, it feels a little bit more aggressive, so he's gonna have a couple action monkey units to help control his objectives. I don't know if you would actually take... you can take Stubborn Defiance with this, but you're gonna have to leave 5 Terminators behind if necessary. And he doesn't have the double obsec in here. Where's his actual warlord?
I wonder. I understand with the chaplain. I mean, you get the 2-up save, right, for being a Terminator.
Yes.
But you lose a movement, and I don't know what the points difference is between just running a jump pack Interrogator Chaplain versus running the Terminator one. Is having the 12-inch move worse than having the 2-up save? Like, for me, the mobility is more important, so I would try and take the one that has a jump pack but has less save in most situations, because being able to fly and move 12 inches I think is more powerful than being a Terminator.
I think
because you still get the deep strike.
I think it ends up about the same. Because I've toyed around with this in my for a while. I'll just take a look real quick. He ends up being...
Okay.
It ends up being about 120... It's either 125 or 135 when you throw the Chief... Or the Master of Sanctity on there. Boom. Yeah, so he's 10 points more expensive with the jump pack. That's why. The jump pack's 25 points.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the jump pack's 25 points. So, and I guess it keeps with the theme. So...
I'm sorry. I've got the Indiana allergies. So when the seasons change, which I understand they don't really have in Hawaii.
Yeah,
there's these.
We don't.
There's these periods in Indiana where like everyone that lives here is allergic to the state. Like, we're just allergic to Indiana. And what happens is that the temperature and the air pressures and things change rapidly because we go from like 90-degree weather to freezing overnight to back to 80, low 90-degree weather, or where it's kind of stuck where we're at, where we'll go from 30 to 60 or 70 every single day, and it'll be like a warm rain to a freezing cold rain to frost, back to cold rain, back to warm rain, and so basically nobody's sinuses can keep up, and I'm in the middle of my like several day period of the year where my body goes, oh, it's Indiana, the seasons are changing, you will be miserable.
Yeah, I grew up in North Texas, so I feel you. Best thing,
so you understand this.
Yeah, no, best thing I ever did for that was just move to a tropical island and live there for 20 years. So
I've heard Arizona's also good for that too. So I got that on the list.
The air's so dry, you just don't have sinuses.
That would be amazing.
All right, so those are two
champion level players.
big lists that we saw. Yeah, the high level stuff. It's good to see that there's like this Terminator stable list, and then I'm not sure. Like, I'd be curious to talk to Ogden again and see how he thinks that the Ravenwing, like the hard hitting Ravenwing, holds up in the current meta. I'm telling you, like Terminators, like they just auto transhuman. That's the only thing that let me score as many points as I did in that game I played against the Orc Buggies. You just could not kill 5 Deathwing Knights. Because set him in cover, 0 up save, -2, 3 damage. Cool, I'm saving on 2s, bro. Like the Apothecary, and then bring him back. So I don't know if Ravenwing can survive that. Because they have buggies with indirect fire. I'm gonna. So my next tournament, we're gonna have another tournament out here in a couple, maybe a month. I think towards the beginning of December, and I'm gonna try and run a Ravenwing list, just to see what happens. Also, I'm kind of tempted by what I see from everyone running airplanes these days, and I want to run. I want to try and run a pair of Dark Talons, and just like I can shoot mortal wounds. Get over it. But. Okay.
All right. So that kind of nicely transitions into our featured segment where we talk about our tournaments, and I feel like I can kind of go first because I can give you an idea of how that Ravenwing list might want to look.
Okay.
Because in my tournament, it did not end up being a 2-day GT because there were a lot of last minute cancellations. That's what I'm looking for. And so it only ended up being about 16 people who played. And it was one day, and I had 2 attack bike max squads with multi-meltas, and I will tell you across 3 games, that was not enough attack bikes with multi-meltas. So the whole, Thomas Ogden's got the 3 squads with the multi-meltas, and then he's, sneaking an extra one into all of his bike squads. Yeah, that is totally necessary in my opinion, because I was burning through those things really quickly, and I feel like part of that, too, is I was really aggressive with them. I tried to do some of Thomas's things, like Game 1, went into an Iron Hands list against this guy that just went and did really well at the New Orleans Open. He goes to Warzone Atlanta every year. He just a big-time player. And has been playing Iron Hands very consistently through 8th and now into 9th. And I got first turn. I did the hunt with my bikes, ran out there, got 5 Melta wounds through on his Redemptor, and he kind of puckered a little bit. He was like, oh boy. And then I rolled my damage, and I couldn't roll higher than a 2. So I only ended up doing 5 damage, or I think he may have saved 1. But so I basically did no damage to this Redemptor, and so he just went, okay, and now I pick up your bikes. This is also the matchup where I was really dumb, and this is the one matchup where I needed my Chaplain with Watch on the board to start the game, but I deep struck him, because I thought I could, he'd be better for scoring and things like that, because he doesn't have a lot of backfield. And it's like if I got him back there because he had the Calbanan Knight and all the extra attacks, he was just going to drop in, have a bunch of attacks, clear out all of his back line, and score backfield objectives, secondaries. Well, what he ended up doing on his turn when I ran out to try and cover some of the middle objectives, because I took it was the one mission where you get points for controlling the middle objectives. So I ran my Blade Guard out there, and he had one of those Land Raider Achilles that you've been talking about, and he just rolled that puppy up. Well, actually, what he did is he disembarked and advanced a jump pack sorcerer out of it, and then moved it up, and effortlessly cast Null Zone on my Deathwing or on my Blade Guard, and even with the 4 up, cannot be wounded on anything. With transhuman, right? You can't be doing anything but a 4 better. That Raider Achilles picked up all 3,
because they have 8 multi-melta shots.
Just picked them up.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah. That, and he had the you can fire the solid rounds out of the hull-mounted gun.
Yeah, the shatter shells from the Thunderfire on its nose. Yeah, that thing's got a lot of DACA. Yeah, that's a great situation to have Watched available.
And that basically that turned the whole game, because at that point I couldn't recover that flank of the board, and he just kind of wore me down, and I lost. But it wasn't too bad, because I liked him. I've always wanted to play him. I've known him for almost 2 years now, and I've never played him. I've like gone to his house and played in his annual like Christmas Apocalypse game or New Year's Apocalypse game, but I've never actually played a one-on-one game with this guy. His name's Joe, so it was really cool to get to play Joe finally. So I was like, I lost. It's all good. I kind of knew it was coming in. It's, it's like when you go to a game and you're like, oh yeah, this guy's just better than me, so I'm going to have a good time and learn what I can. Like, I know one of my buddies that was at that event played Sean Naden at Adepticon a few years ago, and I went over and talked to him and like got to talk to Sean and like shake his hand and like do all the pleasantries, and basically my buddy's just like, bro, I've already lost. I know I've lost. I'm just here to see the master at work, and that's sort of the attitude
I want to see you
gotta
paint
have
your
at events
painting.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So after that, I played a second round. I played an ad mech list that was just a meme, and it was hilarious. This guy's playing. His name's Kyle. He also plays Dark Angels at this store that we were at. It's the one in Knox that I go hang out with my buddy Chris, that I introduced you to on the phone the night before because we were working on the table setups. And but he decided to ditch. Kyle did our sacred brotherhood and brought an ad mech list, but there were no flyers. Actually, no, there was one flyer. And he didn't, and it kind of was wobbly, so he didn't really use it the whole game. He just moved the flight stand around, which is why I forgot it was there until just now. But the key piece is he ran 12 Castellan robots.
That's a lot of DACA.
And 2 6-man squads, and he deep struck one turn 1 into my deployment zone, and then just proceeded to try and table me. And I basically just like traded pieces with him the whole game, and ended up winning like 85 to like 17. Like I crushed him on points, but I was down to like my apothecary, my chaplain, and a couple of like dudes, and that was it. He just kind of burped me off the board, but that's how it is sometimes.
Okay.
And then third round was
how do you
against
kill Castellan robots? Because they still have this stratagem where they can reflect wounds back at you, right?
Yeah. I don't know, because they have so many wounds, and so like I'd get wounds in on them, and they would still like be kicking. Like it took the whole game to kill one of those squads. Like the one that deep struck in my deployment zone, I basically ignored it and tried to, because I had my secondaries built to where like you had to hold the middle objective, because it was direct assault was one of my, so I had to hold the middle objective and then his objective, and so I basically just jumped out of my deployment zone and let him clear out my backfield, sacrificed one squad of infantry every turn, going out and capturing my objective, and pinging into it so that way I could always make sure I had more objectives than he did on his turn, so he never got more than 5 points in primary. And there were turns where he didn't get any primary at all. And then I was always scoring 10 to 15, because I always had enough to score that. And I dumped... In Plasma Inceptors, I dumped attack bikes with multi-meltas. I chopped them with Blade Guard veterans with rerolling wounds because they were in the Assault Doctrine against a vehicle or monster. Or is that only against characters?
No, it's against vehicles or monsters. Or characters.
Okay.
So they have the vehicle keyword?
You know what? I don't know. I just assumed they did because it's a robot.
So
I figured it had one of those too.
I would say, like, because if you can get a charge in on them, then you could basically hold them in combat, or force them to fall back, or force them to shoot you in combat, I guess. But
I did do a lot of that. Like, and there's one time it almost worked beautifully where I had to make this one assault intercessor save, and it would have turned off one unit's entire shooting for the whole turn because he only assigned just enough of shots to try and kill this guy, and I just kept making all these clutch saves, and he's like, I have to spend a command point to kill this guy, or the 5 other Castellan robots don't get to shoot this turn. And then I used a command point to try and keep him alive and just didn't get it. But it was pretty funny that he's like, oh no, like, this is bad. I'm like, yep, this is why I keep tagging you. Like, I charged my Talon Master into him, and because he set up where they had, like, bullet weapon skill 6, like, they couldn't do anything to me in close combat. So I was always trying to sacrifice something and forcing him to kill that one squad in combat every turn and take some of the heat off my Blade Guard that were camping Oath of the Moment in the middle of the board, which conveniently there was that middle objective. So that was nice. But yeah, it was... Like, the guy, Chris, was running the tournament, would come over and look at it, and afterwards he's like, I hope you realize that Kyle was, like, just trying to kill you. Because he did not play the objectives on him. Like, no, I got that vibe, and I was willing to take a good hiding as long as I won. And he offered me victory at the expense of getting my butt whooped, and I took it with both hands.
Sometimes
I'll
that's
win.
what, sometimes
I'll
that's what
take
it
a
looks
win.
like. You know, it's you can total up the points at the end of the game and go, oh wow, I won! Holy crap! And that's what happened with my last game. I thought I had lost until we actually totaled the points up, and I won by 1. So,
Oh wow, that's awesome.
My opponent was not happy about it. He was like, "How did I lose?" I'm like, "Well, I blanked you on primary 2 turns in a row."
Oh yeah, that's
so,
big. That's big.
Yeah, and
And that happened in my third game where I played this guard guy. He didn't score any primaries, I think, the entire game.
That's
and
tough.
we were playing one of the longboard ones where you had to hold 2 objectives just to get 5 points.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another one where I took attack bikes. I jumped forward, popped a chimera with guys in it, so they'd have to foot slog and come out in the open, get shot. Charged. There were these 2 L shapes that were protecting his deployment zone, but But this is one of the ones where you didn't deploy the entire side of the board. You had to deploy in a little box. So all of his tanks were stacked up in the carpool on top of each other, and so the one tank was in the gap between these 2 L shapes, and I charged it. And he had to. So on his turn, he had to pull all of his tanks back just so he could shoot at my guys, because it wasn't even I can't remember if it was like a Hellhound or it was something he didn't want to actually. It couldn't get itself out of combat by shooting my bike, so he had to pull back and then unload all of his like Lehman Russes and stuff and kill these 3 bikes. But that turn ruined a lot for him, because instead of moving on all the objectives, he had to fall back, which I forgot that it was 2 objectives to score 5 points primary, so I did not have enough objectives covered to score primary on my first turn to score primary. Like, I put a big whopping 0, and I was like, oh man, I am screwed. But then I saw the fact that my bikes kind of forced him to fall back when he needed to be going forward that first turn. That kept me in the game, and then I just kept putting pressure on him, making clutch saves on his manticores, because he kept dumping them into Blade Guard and things that had, say, like big invulns that could just tank the damage, and then I could bring them back. And I just started picking up vehicles. He had some sentinels, picked up his infantry with bolter shots, and just slowly wore him down. And he just never scored any primary, basically, the entire game.
Yeah,
and I just kind of buried him in
tough.
points on that.
It's really good against guard, considering they usually have so many bodies. Like, I've played against guard when they say, and like they're like, we don't shoot bullets at you, we shoot people at you. Like, I'm just move a squad of 10 infantry onto this objective and dare you to do anything about it. So, and they just like,
this guy was. And this was this guy's sort of first tournament. Like, he's a big narrative player, and it was like a true mech guard list. Like, there was only 3 infantry squads in the whole list, I'm pretty sure. Like, he did not bring a lot. He did bring some scions, now that I think about it, but he had 3 squads of infantry in chimeras, and that was his infantry complement.
Not enough OBSEC then. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And he just didn't I talked to Chris afterwards, and he's like, I understand now why you talk about me having to get reps. Like, I just can't play casually, then come to a tournament and expect to do well if I don't know what my matchups are, because I've never played any of these things. So just getting games in is the key to successful tournament plays. You just got to know what you're playing, and that's what played it. From what I heard about that the guy who won SoCal, like, he just grinded that orc buggy list against everything, and he just knew what to do against any opponent, and that's how he got to the SoCal win.
He put the work in to know what he needed to do in those situations, and practice and familiarity is going to win almost any day of the week. That's true in IRL as well as in the game. Like, this, I'm going to execute battle plan 3 Charlie Alpha 1 for this particular scenario with contingency plan, like 5 contingency plans on backup, and you just need to, like, once you need to run the same list, dial down like the big factors of it, and then once you're like, okay, I've got 1,800 to 1,900 points stable, I'll change 1 or 2 units and then just rep that over and over and over until you know how to deploy in all the different missions, how to get the so, which I did not unfortunately have the opportunity to do. But
and me either, since I've moved away from like my local gaming groups, and we haven't got the 40K worked up here in Crawfordsville yet. Although Friday's the 40K open house at the new game store here, so I'm going in to run that, or help run that. Now I did get to play a second day in sort of like a fake 4th round, because one of my buddies I ended up staying with was like, oh, I'll play tomorrow, and I played against the Choppy Necron list and got pummeled. But the
What
key
do you
thing here
mean
that
by choppy Necron?
like he ran all those just Skull Pack Destroyer guys with like the
yeah.
big choppy things,
They are
and he just like he had it
terrifying.
built, and he had like hordes of them, and just ran them across the board into all my Blade Guard and stuff, and just chopped them to little pieces. And I was like, oh man, I've never seen anything kill these things that fast, and he just annihilated them.
Yeah.
Now the one thing in this game that I wanted to throw at you, because this we had to call Chris over, and we had to invoke the rule in the rule book where you have a dice off with your opponent when you have a rules discussion that you can't come to an agreement on. You just roll dice, and whoever wins the dice roll, you just go with it. Like we did that. I was like, all right, I'm not arguing with you anymore. Let's just roll a die and take it. And so what happened is he had one of his vehicles, one of the big spider things from like War of the Worlds, and I had it down to a few wounds. Like maybe 4 or 5 left. So, deep strike in the Plasma Inceptors. Supercharge the Plasma Inceptors. And because I'm supercharging them, I want to make sure I'm keeping track of where the ones are in case I blow up one of my guys. So I take the first guy, roll 2d3, get those shots, hit with all of them, get a bunch of wounds through, because I think he had they also have because they changed Quantum Shielding, where if you don't roll under the damage and negate it anymore, they just also have Transhuman.
Yeah, and they have a
So,
strategy
I got-
to give themselves a 4 pinball save. Yeah.
Yes. So I got enough wounds in, and I killed it with the first guy. And so I said, okay, that's it. And my buddy goes, no, you need to finish rolling your shots because you supercharged. So I want to see if you rolled any ones on the other 2 guys to see if they die. And I'm like, why? Like every other situation in the game where if I shoot something and I kill it with the first gun, like I just assume everything doesn't matter and I just move on. He's like, I agree, but there's plasma involved, and that changes the equation. I want to see if one of your guys blows himself up. And I said, all right, let's roll it out. Let's have a roll-off, and if you win, we do it your way. If I win, I get it my way. I lost, and I ended up losing one guy, and the other 2 guys died anyway in the next turn. So it really didn't end up changing the game that much, but it was just... It was one of those weird cookie roll interactions where I was like, you know what? I don't quite know the answer, and... I was like, I don't know.
I think he's right. I think that because technically all shooting is resolved simultaneously. So, well, I can't.
Because we need to because you have the whole. Well, because you have because we pulled out the whole you resolve one die at a time.
Yeah,
we went to the rule book and pulled that out.
Dice rolling.
Yeah.
Well, you could because you could say, okay, well, if you're doing it one dice at a time, then you could say that because it no longer has an eligible target. But I think that because the target eligibility is tested when the unit shooting is declared. So
yeah.
So I think that's the crux of the matter. I can grab a rulebook real quick. Hold on.
Okay. Yeah, so like I said, it didn't end up saving my bacon at all, but I just thought it was interesting because in any other game I've played where I've seen stuff shot, like as soon as the thing's dead, you just move on with life, and that's the point behind fast rolling. And then I was kind of slow rolling with my guys individually because it's like I don't want to just roll a bunch of D3s and then roll a bunch of hits and go, oh yeah, all these ones I rolled, those were all the shots from the one guy, so just only one guy dies. Because I remember watching people do that at the beginning of 8th edition when we had some new players come into the game in my Plymouth store, and I was just like, no, you guys can't do it that way. And to be fair, I did it a little bit, and then I was like, okay, that's not how that works, fine. And then I started policing it pretty hard because I didn't want people to think once I started doing it the right way, I wanted other people to do it the right way so people didn't think I was cheating them or make other people look bad because, someone would play them and then play me and see me do it and go, well, why didn't they do it? They must be dirty, rotten cheaters. And I'm like, no, it's a really odd rule interaction that people don't pay attention to because it's, only in those rare situations does it actually matter. And that also made me happy because usually whenever Chris and I play, it's not a real game of 40k until we find something like this, like where we feel like we've broken the game. Like there's no, we have to go look this up and have a 15-minute discussion on what the heck do we do now. If we don't have one of those, I'm not satisfied with us playing. And so I was at Chris's event, and I had a weird rules interaction where I had to call him in and be like, all right, Chris, solve this for me. And yeah, so we ended up going with the guys still have to roll their hits, and the guy rolled a 1, and he's now dead.
Okay.
So yeah, that was my experience. Ended up 7th. Oh, did you find something?
I don't want to call it conclusive yet, but so I think the relevant pages are 216 of the Indomitus version of the
big
rulebook
book.
and 220. So
Okay.
it says select targets. When a unit shoots, you must select the target units for all ranged weapons its models making attacks for before any attacks are resolved. So to me, that means that target eligibility is declared at that point.
Yeah.
When a model makes an attack, make one hit roll. Okay, so let's look at the fast dice rolling. So when a model makes an attack, make one hit roll for the attack by rolling. Technically, the weapon has the ability that says on my hit roll is made. So I guess the way to do this would be because you this is probably technically worthy of an FAQ. It says so the shooting procedure says select a unit from your army to shoot with.
Yeah.
Step 1. 2. When a unit shoots, select targets, then resolve attacks with any or all ranged weapons that units are equipped with. So you select targets and then resolve attacks, right? That's a separate step, right? So you select a target, and that's done, and then you resolve attacks against it. So I could, if you technically said... Yeah, I think he's right. So, because you select the target, and then, because you select the target for the unit, and then you begin resolving attacks. And so, normally, if there's no consequence to the weapon's attack hit missing, then who cares, right? But...
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I usually do is I just roll the number for the Inceptor or for Overcharged Plasma. I roll the number of shots for each model individually, then resolve the number of hits, and then just put them into a hit pool. And then once I've resolved all models' hits and whether or not anything dies, then I resolve all the wounds simultaneously.
Right.
So
right, and just in that case, I've kind of gotten into the habit, just to make sure I'm not messing it up, of just I resolve everything for one guy individually all the time, and I also kind of only had to kill him with one guy if I could, and so that's where I was like, yeah, I'm just going to use the one guy, kill him, hopefully, and then don't have to worry about it, and then the guy's like, no, that's how that works, and I'm fine, and that's a key rule, too, in the rulebook, it's literally in the book. If you have a dispute and you can't come to a quick resolution, you roll the die and move on, and people just don't seem to think that's a thing.
Yeah. Well, because
that would save a lot of people some
most
heartbreak.
gamers aren't willing to admit they're wrong. So,
right.
Yeah. So, I had a similar issue in one of my games. So, I built a portion of my list around the Warlord trait Stubborn Tenacity. So, Stubborn Tenacity is a Dark Angel Warlord trait that says when this unit or this Warlord dies, if it does not explode, then it just stays there. It basically stops losing wounds and doesn't get removed from the board until the start of the next turn. So he can still fight, his auras are still there, all that stuff. I was like, hey, this sounds great, because if I put this on a Talonmaster as my Warlord and also has Rights of War, then my OBSEC stays there until the beginning of the next turn. The beginning of the next turn is the command phase. Therefore, I guarantee I will score this objective and keep the banner or keep whatever else.
Right.
But when this actually came up, my this orc player killed all the infiltrators or almost all the infiltrators on one of my objectives, on my Stubborn Defiance objective. And I couldn't get my other Terminators over in time, so I zooped my OBSEC speeder over, sat there. He charged him, didn't kill it, left him with one wound, and I fell back out of combat. Moved over away from out of 1 inch. Said, okay, you can't charge me, or this is my turn. So if you charge me, then he dies, and then in the next turn, I will still be there and score the objectives. He's like, no. The turn starts, and then the command phase begins. Those two things don't happen at the same time. Like, what?
Yeah.
And as we call it TO, and he's like, yeah, the turn order is separate from the phase order, because there are things that happen like in the turn, like it says, like the hunt says after the game has started, but before the first turn begins. But I guess it's like battle round to turn. So yeah, so it's like, okay, I guess this didn't work the way I thought it was, and I built this whole army around this concept of like flipping objectives with supersonic Talon Masters. So we'll have to revisit that, unless you think that's incorrect. If anybody else has any objectives, please, or any comments on that, please let me know, or please let us know in the comments, because I would love to hear it. But if so, I just think that one's incredibly powerful thing.
Well, and the problem I've run into just kind of like reading that is that unless you're going second, I think the problem ends up being with that. Or with your going second, it's not as powerful because your guy is until the start of the next turn,
or the end of the game. So I think if you're going second, it's more powerful because he's then on the last turn. Right? Well, no, because if he's alive in your turn and you're second, then it doesn't matter. I guess unless he dies, unless like you throw him into something and he gets killed in combat, then he just doesn't die until the end of the game, in which case the controlling player decides what order what effects happens. You score everything, and then the game ends, and which is when he dies. So that would actually be
I can
like
see
that's
that.
A pretty narrow like it's like okay, if I keep this guy alive till turn 5, I can shoot him at something and he's not going to die and flip this objective. Which I guess is cool, but is it worth like not taking Azrael?
Very situational.
Lord? Yeah, it's pretty situational.
Yeah.
So but like my goal was have some bikes and this Talon Master. I can throw it an objective and guarantee flip it, even if he gets killed. It just doesn't matter. So but
and then just to finish up on mine. The cool thing that I even though I got 7th, so I was in the middle of pack the 16-man tournament, I did win Best Sportsman, which is actually quite a competitive award because there's this guy that plays at all the tournaments in Northern Indiana named Brian, and he's just literally the funniest, nicest guy, and he always wins Best Opponent, like always wins. And I beat him to it this event, and so that was pretty cool, and that meant a lot to me because I know sometimes, like since I've been a judge and I've played a long time, people get kind of nervous sometimes when they play me, and like the newer players. And the one guy I was playing with, Jimmy, I played that guard player. Like I basically felt I'd lost the game after like round 1, so I had a libation, and so Jimmy deep struck in his guys, and then tried to move them after he deep struck. And I just looked at him, on a mostly empty stomach and half a libation, really powerful one. I was just kind of like, "You can't do that." And he just like looked at me like, "What?" I was like, "Stop what you're doing right now. You're cheating. You can't do that." And we had to call Chris over, and Chris is like looking through the book, and he's like,
Bailey,
"Oh, okay,
don't be
here's
drunk
the
and
core
play
rule book."
40K. Come on now.
And I even told him, like, as I was doing it, I was like, "Look, I'm doing this because I'm pretty sure I'm screwed, so I'm just going to start the party night early." And it just worked out, and I just kept playing. Like, I didn't get sloshed to the point that I couldn't win the game, and because I ended up winning, but there was just sort of this weird interaction where I was just like, no. Like, I wasn't trying to be mean. I was just like, no. Like, I'm not even going to discuss it with you. I know that's wrong. And he was just like, oh, okay. And he thought it was funny, so I kind of thought that, there was and then when I played the first game, there was I did something kind of wrong, and I thought, oh man, now that guy's going to think I'm a cheater. And so to actually get, but I was like, I apologize, like, oh, I forgot, I didn't realize he did that, sorry about that, and, redid everything, and he was like, okay, this is cool, it's cool. So to actually end up with Best Sportsman after like a couple kind of goofy moments, I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm glad that people don't hate me, because they could easily. So, so outside of your Warlord didn't do the thing he was supposed to, how did the rest of your event go?
Pretty well. I had, so it was a 16-person event, so just an RTT, like a reportable RTT.
Yeah.
3-round. So my first game was against a gentleman named Kyle. So he played Nurgle Demons, like full-on Chaos Demons. 2 blobs of 30 Plague Bearers, 2 giant Exalted Greater Unclean ones,
plague drones, beasts of Nurgle, the Scrivener, like all the little support Nurgle characters that do the things. Nary a gun in the whole army.
It's crazy.
And was like, well, I think I'm gonna do okay here because my army is basically designed to handle this. Like, you're gonna charge my Deathwing Terminators, and then you're just gonna stop. So it was it was mission 11. So the number 11 from the Strike Force. So it was a hammer and amble deployment.
Okay.
Six
that helps
objectives:
you.
Control 1, Control 2, and
that's good.
So I set up to basically. I took Oaths of Moment, Stubborn Defiance, and I think my third one. I don't remember what my third one was. I have to go look. I think it was. I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. It was yesterday, and I don't remember. But
It's all good,
yeah.
dude.
So I scored. So we played to the end of turn 4. We ran out and called time. He's a Sigmar player that uses his army at 40k as well. But yeah, they just came down 2 sides of the board, and I refused one flank, and then loaded up on the other one. My 10 Relic Terminators, 5 Deathwing Knights, a Colexus Assassin sit right in between all of them.
Ooh.
So if you charge me, you're going to stop, and I'm going to make you fight last, and then I get to fight you. And I had an Apothecary to keep everything healthy and bring stuff back to life. I had Plasma Inceptors to, drop bombs on things. The Talamaster with Arbiter's Gaze. 4 Black Knights. Because I didn't have enough fast attack spots to put them into my patrol detachment, and I couldn't put regular Ravenwing bikes into a Deathwing Vanguard without breaking the obsec. So,
right.
And then I had 3 multi-melt attack bikes, and then I had a Strike Master, a Deathwing Strike Master, so Lieutenant Terminator.
Yes, let's go.
And so that was actually really good. I liked him a lot. He just advanced around the board and put his aura out, and he has a storm shield, so he just sits there and doesn't die generally, unless he takes the focus fire from a Iron Hand Storm Speeder Hammer Strike, and he charged it. And when he charges into stuff, he's got a Mace of Absolution. He hits on 2s. He rerolls wounds against big monsters and characters, and vehicles when he's in the assault phase. He does work, and he's 110 points that loadout. It gives you an alternate, normally those Deathwing lists are Stubborn Defiance, Oaths of Moment, and maybe a mission secondary or banners.
Right.
And you can and that gives you the option to take behind enemy lines if you want. So you can, or teleport homers. So you can drop in and get teleport homers. Just hide them in a corner. Like 140 mil base is super hard to screen out. And he can raise teleport homers. But he just sat there and just gave that. The other interesting piece of kit that I brought was a Phobos Captain.
Oh, yeah, I've been looking at those.
So I brought a Phobos Captain because I wanted to do this, hey, my Talamaster's the Warlord, so I can use Paragon on him. So this is, okay, well, he has to be the Warlord, that means I can't take Azrael. So what do I do if I don't have Azrael? This is, well, I put a Phobos Captain in there. And that actually worked out really interesting because some of those Phobos Warlord traits are pretty cool.
Scary.
So so what I did was I gave him the Vox Asperitum. So his Rites of Battle aura was 3 inches bigger, so it was 9-inch aura for reroll once to hit. And then I gave him Shoot and Fade as the Warlord trait, so he can move and advance. And then if he shoots his gun, he can move and advance again immediately after shooting the gun. So basically,
that's a really powerful ability.
So he can't charge if he does that, and obviously that happens in the shooting phase, so he can't do an action. But what it lets you do is he basically acts as 2 captains. So Phobos Captain, this guy, basically, if you use him to move and you can sit him in one side of your board, of your deployment, or however your battle line ends up falling out. Usually what happens is your guns end up on one side, but where your Terminators are, where your shield wall is someplace else. So you set him up so that his aura covers the Devastator squad, whatever your shooting is, and then all that shooting happens, and then you take the pot shot with this guy at something random, because his gun is Assault 1, 30-inch range, and it can target characters.
Ooh.
And it's 3 flat damage, AP -2. So like, pink! Okay, and then I move, and I can advance. So it just move that aura over to back him up behind the Terminators. So then he throws his aura onto the Terminators. And then they get to shoot with their bolters, or if they get charged, they get the reroll ones from that. So that was actually really effective, and I like it. I'm gonna keep that in my back pocket for later. So
yeah, it's one of those order of operation strategies that are really nice.
It's really good. It's a huge force multiplier. So I got basically twice the aura coverage, twice the real ones to hit for one warlord trait. And if you got the points, cool. Because you use infiltrators as your guys for sitting on objectives, for 5 points, that squad of infiltrators can take a Phobos communications relay, so they're under the effect of his aura no matter where he is or they are on the board.
Yep, and it works on the lieutenant too.
And it works on the lieutenant as well. So any Phobos characters. So that was actually pretty cool. I like that a lot. My original versus list, I had 4 Blade Guard, but I dropped them because I thought I needed more shooting. So I put a squad of Devastators with 3 missile launchers and a heavy bolter, and that came in useful. But yeah, so okay. So my first, the Necrons, or sorry, not the Necrons, the Nurgle just hit the Terminators and stopped. And
excellent.
Yeah, and I scored Stubborn Defiance. I scored Oath of Moment. I scored whatever my last one was, which I don't remember. and I ended up running up like an 83 to his like 20 something. Not
nice.
hot. So because I was able, because the last turn we played, or it was turn 3. He had I killed his blob of Plague Bearers in the middle with missile fire, and then Talon Masters over the course of a couple turns, and then knocked him off one of his objectives, and then moved my bikes and my Talon Master up. It killed all the Nurglings that were on his other objective. It flipped that, so he had one objective to my 4, and
nice.
And that progressed for a couple turns, and there's no way coming back from that. So, and he took Psychic Interrogation, because I guess he didn't realize it was a psychic action, which means if you do that, it's an action, and you can't cast any other powers, or you lose all your other auras.
Yes.
So he took that with the intent that his big characters would cast it, and he realized, oh, this is a bad idea. I shouldn't have done that. So,
yeah, I've played people that made that mistake when they have only one Psyker and it's your Swarm Lord. It's like, you realize he doesn't get to do anything else after that, right?
Nope, don't do that. So, yeah. So my second game, the Calexis did his thing. He charged in. The Calexis debuffed all of his psychic powers, completely blanked his psychic phase because he needed to roll 9s to cast. So he charged in and he tried to kill the Calexis, whiffed because you need 6s to hit him, and then the Terminators fought and just did a lot of damage. So I still didn't kill the two big Raider and Clean ones, but you don't need to. So
no. Well, and something to remember if you see more Calexis assassins going forward is that the incursors. Not only that, but incursors do it too. They ignore all modifiers to their ballistic skills, so they can just gun him down too. And he only has he lives and dies by a 4-up invuln. So their guns are good enough to kill him. So that's something that any Marine player can do, and not just Dark Angels players. So it's something important to remember.
So the second game was Mission 12. So it was a Dawn of War style deployment. So long edge to long edge. Orc buggies. I won't try and tell you what the list was because it's a lot of Waz bombs, snack bluggets, and dingy dangy dangle thingies, but this dude
orcs.
This dude, no joke, had I think 20 buggies.
Whew, that's a lot.
6 of the scramma jet things. He had the indirect fire ones. He had mech guns, and then he had 4 units of commandos to just drop in and retrieve Octarius data. His entire deployment zone was full, parking lot.
I went first,
That's
and I was
impressive.
like, I need to get an alpha strike off, otherwise I'm gonna get hosed. So I hunted my bikes forward, overcharged, did everything, and shot. I killed two of the bikes, or sorry, two of the scram bucket jet whatevers. And then my multi-melted bikes jumped forward and they killed another one. So they have his Big Mech did overcharge his KFF, his custom force field, made it 18 inches wide radius and a 5-up save, and he blew smoke, so this entire army got -1 to hit. So shooting through all that, I only killed 3 buggies, and one of his units of commandos. His return fire was, guys and girls, holy crap! Those buggies put out some DACA.
Oh yeah.
Each of those buggies has something like 15 AP2 flat 3 damage shots. And when they're freebooters, if they kill one unit, the whole army gets +1 to hit. They kill another unit, they get another +1 to hit. So they're going to hit on 3s past whatever your penalty to hit is. Dense cover doesn't matter. Land speed or vengeance, doesn't matter. Your dark shot doesn't matter. Planes don't matter. I don't care. Like, they're going to hit on 3s and they're going to kill it. And they're all ramshackle, so they have -1 damage against anything that's less than strength 8. So overcharge my plasma, missiles, everything. I killed 3 or 4 buggies on turn 1, and then he killed all of my bikes, he killed all of my bikes, half of my devastators, all but one of my infiltrators, half of one squad of relic terminators, and he killed 2 Deathwing Terminators, or Deathwing Knights, because they were standing in cover with a 0-up save. And I had an apothecary next to him. And God, holy crap. Just the volume of fire. He had a jet, and that jet has, no joke, 44 shots.
Oh yeah, they got a lot of dock, and they have like better ballistic skill.
Yeah,
if they shoot all at one target or something like that.
It's crazy. So I just moved everything forward. Said, okay, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. When I moved my bikes forward, I assaulted on turn 1. I moved the bikes up to kind of make a move block, so his war boss on a trike couldn't get into my guys.
That's important.
So he killed the bikes, and then I moved the Deathwing Knights forward. The apothecary brought one back closer to the enemy, so it basically took 3 inches off my charge.
Nice.
And then the Deathwing Knights charged in. The Relic Terminators charged 1, and Inceptors dropped in. I didn't have enough CP to overcharge because I spent all my CP on turn 1 for my Alpha Strike. I killed his war boss on the bike. I killed I killed like 3 more bikes, and that just, those Deathwing Knights and the apothecary ran that side of the table. I maxed out Bring It Down. I killed 14.
Nice.
I think 13 buggies or 14 buggies and that stupid airplane.
Nice.
And still lost the game. I lost the game, I think, like 87 to 75 or something.
Wow, that's close.
But like those at the end of the game, the Deathwing Knights were standing in the middle of the board with a strike master next to him, and the orcs were just running away.
Yes.
They killed everything they touched, but even though I killed 13 buggies, he had 5 more.
Yep. And they're way faster than Terminators.
Yeah, none of them are OBSEC. So if you get one OBSEC thing on, they'll flip it, but they have such an unbelievable shooting output, it's not even funny. It is not even funny. So I would, nuts. And given how well that kind of style list did at SoCal, I would strongly recommend thinking, okay, how do I get Strength 8 multi-damage weapons in my army? I need overcharged plasma. This is actually making me think that if I go Hellblasters, I'm going to go back to the rapid-fire plasma guns on the Hellblasters instead of the assault ones, because the rapid-fire ones overcharge to Strength 8. I don't need... Normally, I was like, hey, I need the extra shot. Like, nope. I need the Strength 8. Multi-melt is... Yeah, you need high-volume Strength 8 firepower, because each one of those buggies has 9 wounds.
Oof, that's a lot.
And remember, the turn 1, he's going to mitigate your Alpha Strike with -1 to hit and a 5-up field or 5-up invul.
Yep.
So
both good.
Anyway, Deathwing Terminators with Storm Shields in cover will tank it, but it's a near thing. It's an unbelievable amount of firepower. It's tough.
And that's the thing that always catches people, because orcs are sold as a close combat army, and they're never a close combat army. It's always about the Daka with them.
Nope, it's the Daka.
Always shooting.
Yeah. So yeah, my third
Round
game
3.
My third game was against Iron Hands. It was Vital Intelligence. So I took it was the slanty deployment. The slanty.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing with my hands right now. Slanty. And he had actually I really liked his list. So he had 2 gladiators with the twin onslaught cannons. 2 redemptors with onslaught cannon with the full anti-infantry loadout. He had 2 of the storm speeder hammer strikes. So the ones with the flat 3 damage missiles and the melta destroyer. He had a Leviathan dreadnought with the grav flux bombards and the Volkite chargers. And those Graflux bombards, they do work. Like, we talked about those, I think, a couple months ago. Those things get the job done, especially as Iron Hands. He had an ATV with the Melta on it and some Phobos units to just kind of sit on objectives and move around, infiltrators and eliminators.
Yeah.
And then he had a Tech Marine, because duh, and a Phobos Librarian. And the Phobos Librarian has the spells, so he can put +1 to hit. And so he can put +1 to hit on 2 different vehicles between the Tech Marine and the Librarian, and then he can put and he can put +1 armor save on a vehicle from the Librarian, and he had an Iron Stone to put -1 damage on one of those gladiators. So
and those gladiators are good. Like in some casual play, I've run a Tech Marine behind one of those, and if it gets the jump on something, it's got at least I play with the Melta ones. So when you've got 2 sets of twin multi Meltas, and you've got the
laser destroyer
that
on
one.
top.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It's got the last talons, the twin last talons on top. Like, you're throwing some serious Daka at something at 24-inch range. So if you get up there and you get a jump on something, you just blow it up. And it's glorious. Yeah. It's just getting the gladiator there right now is the problem. So unless you have a way to give it an invuln or keep it alive or reduce damage on it like Iron Hands do, it's hard to play with.
Yeah, so everything having Feel of Pain, everything having -1 damage is tough. And Iron Hands, they don't really need core on their vehicles because they're just going to reroll ones to hit with all this stuff anyway. And then they can use the generic doctrine manipulation stratagem to roll them back 1 anyway. So hey, that gladiator or that redemptor, he's now in all doctrines, and when a redemptor dreadnought is in all doctrines, all of his guns are an additional -1 AP. It is, and they charge you, and they punch pretty hard.
And they punch
combat. So
yes,
the end of this game, I think I was legit tabled, but I won 47-46.
Yeah, that's it.
And the reason why, so I took, I didn't take banners, but I took Stubborn Defiance, I took Martial Interdiction, and I took Data Intercept. Data Intercept is the mission secondary where you basically do an action, and then when it resolves, which is the beginning of your next command phase, you get points equal to how many objectives you own. And this is a hold 2, hold 3 mission. We both took it. So and I was like, well, I'm not going to take banners because the action economy for Space Marines, you just don't have that many units that can be doing actions all the time. And I pretty much dedicated my infiltrators to do actions. So they sat on my objective and just did actions. And he redeployed his Phobos Librarian way back into his backfield because I'm not letting you get him. I'm like, okay, I think I can get to him. Every other game, these Deathwing Knights have just wrecked their way across the board and end up doing their thug thizzle on your face. It did not happen this game. I did not touch that guy. But
one of the other, I did two things in this game that I really liked. One was I actually got to use the Ravenwing grenade launcher stasis shell stratagem.
Yes.
So what had happened was he got first turn and he got a good line on. He killed an entire unit of relic terminators with that stupid Leviathan dreadnought. Moved up, got a line on them, and they have a stratagem where every time they roll a 6 to wound, it counts as an additional wound. And they have one that does, and it was an additional point of damage as well, because they have a good armor save. So 3 flat damage, just bloop bloop bloop. He did. Oh, I hit you 6 times, and I did 8 wounds. What? Oh god. So and then the Volkite, and then everything else. So I lost the unit of Terminators, and that was bad. And he had deployed a set of infiltrators in the mid board. And I said, okay, I need to kill those guys off that objective. So what I did was I moved the Deathwing Knights up. He had moved his hammer speeder, one of his hammer strikes up. So I moved the Deathwing Knights up, brought one of them back to life, closer, so I could make a better charge. Moved my Talon Master onto the objective, so that what I was going to do is charge the Knights into the hammer strike, kill it, and then consolidate into his infiltrators. And then I used the stasis shell on the infiltrators so they couldn't fall back. And then my Knights consolidated into them. I got 4 guys on the objective, plus my Talon Master, who was OBSEC. So I had 5 OBSEC on the table, on the objective over his 4, and I flipped the objective on him. And then he couldn't fall back from those things, so he had to fight them. So he moved that Redemptor Dreadnought up, and that Redemptor Dreadnought legit killed all of them in 3 turns. Because -1 damage, 6 up, feel no pain. So, but
and their fist is pretty powerful.
It's flat 3 damage. And it would wound anything else on 2s basically, but Deathwing Knights is going to wound on 4s. So, I killed the Leviathan Dreadnought on turn 1. I got my Melta-Bikes up there. I got 2 wounds through. Like, he failed 2 saves, and I rolled 2 6s for damage. I think I did like 15 damage or something, like 663, and he ended up after the damage reduction, the feel no pain. He took 13 wounds and he had 14 total.
Oh wow!
So he had 1 wound left, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do to put 1 wound on this guy through T7, 2 up armor, -1 damage reduction, and a 6 up feel no pain? And you know what did it?
Yeah.
You know what did
Somebody's pistol.
The Calexis Assassin.
Nice.
Because I was within 18 inches barely of his Psyker, so his Animus Speculum charged up to D6 shots. I got 5 shots, 3 wounds, at -4 AP, and he failed. And he failed 1 of the saves and didn't make the Field of Pain. And the Leviathan Dreadnought went down to a Calexis Assassin. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. So other thing I think I did good here was I had moved all my bikes up to touch one of his objectives, and then he moved his Dreadnought up, killed all but one of those bikes, and that one bike had 1 wound left. So I moved the bike back behind terrain, and it just sat there for the next 3 turns of the game. So at the end of turn 4, said I had blanked him that turn, and then the turn before, and then the end of turn 4, I was like, all of my Terminators, my Deathwing Knights were dead, all my Relic Terminators were dead, my Captain was dead, my Strike Master was dead, the Talon Master and like 2 Infiltrators, the Talon Master, the squad of Infiltrators, and then like the Assassin, and then one of those bikes was like the only thing left. And so what I did was I moved the Assassin onto the objective that one of his Dreadnoughts was on. I moved the Talon Master onto another objective that one of his Dreadnoughts was on. The bike came out, advanced, moved on to the objective that his tank was on, and I took all but one of his objectives, and it's a hold 2, so he got 0 for primary on the next turn, on turn 5. And that's what won me the game.
That's brutal. That's key.
Honestly, the thing I learned about this is that Assassin, I was like, okay, I actually wrote a version of the list the night before, 2 days before, that didn't have the Assassin. It's like, I don't know if this thing's worth it. Like this, am I going to see that much Psychic to warrant this guy? Absolutely, because even if he's not sitting in your line providing, fight last, he just runs around and he can do an action, or basically he just charges into something,
you're not like if you shoot him on Overwatch, great. Spend your Overwatch trying to kill an assassin.
Yeah.
You touch him in combat, you're going to need 6s to hit him, and then he could basically turn off vehicles, make them fall back, and then even when he's standing out in the middle of the board, not protected by lookouts, sir, he's still really hard to interact with.
Yep.
So they have to dedicate an inordinate amount of fire to do it, and he died basically both games, but it got done. But him just running up, flipping an objective. And the assassin killed his Forge Father, killed his tech brain.
Oh, nice.
It turned off shooting for a couple of vehicles. So absolutely, like I really like the utility the assassin provided. So,
and if you're worried about assassins like that, flamers. That's how you deal with Calexis.
Arbiter's Gaze,
That's
baby.
what I found. Yep.
Arbiter's Gaze. So, yeah. So I won that one 47-46. We blanked each other on turn 3, or on turn like 4 and 5. And because he barely ever had objectives, his data intercept never did anything. And he had like one objective that he had a banner on that actually survived.
Wow.
So I was able to counterplay his objectives, even though my army was just getting shot to ribbons. Martial Addiction was the wrong thing to take in that case. I should have realized it. I should have taken something else, like Oath.
Because he picked his Phobos, right, and just hid him from you.
Yeah, I was like, and listen, I thought I could get to it, but he did the right thing. He didn't try and shoot the Deathwing Knights to death. He just threw bodies into combat with them, and just stopped him up. So.
No, that's smart.
So yeah, overall, I got 4th out of 16.
Nice.
And the top 2 were 2 just real, like, no parrots on their shoulder, no rings in their ear, hard swashbuckling Buccaneers. The winner of the tournament was Garrett Giles, one of the captain of one of the U.S. Army esports teams.
Oh, nice.
And the runner-up was Brett Perkins, who won the LVO 4 years ago.
Oh wow! Okay.
So that's what we got tromping around in our meta. And we have
I've got a Team Happy coming up at this team tournament in the early November. So like we're going to a team tournament format, and we're playing against the perennial like champions of America. So I'm like, we're going to get roasted.
So, but hey, iron sharpens iron. So you got to do what you got to do. So yeah,
that's pretty cool
Brett,
though.
So Brett ran Necrons. It did really well with them. Hey, everything's OBSEC, everything's fast, and here's a Void Dragon. Deal with that. And
Void Dragons are scary.
Garrett won with mixed Custodes and Sisters of Silence. So Talon's the Emperor.
Okay. And one of the
don't
cool
know
things
much
I've
about how
heard...
their games went, but it was a nasty looking list. Bikes, Telemon Dreadnoughts, Sisters of Silence to hold objectives and screen the backfield. So
the thing I've heard about Chris described Custodes that I think it's very apt until December because they announced they're getting their new codex then. GW did, is that Custodes are good right now because they're still playing 8th edition rules. And when you think about what was taken away from Space Marines, but Custodes still have it, that's why they're so good. Like, they still have the reroll auras that you don't have to declare them in your command phase. Like, they just always have them. They still have the 3-up invulns and things like that.
Well, their storm shields got modified back down to like the +1 armor 4-up.
They did?
I'm pretty sure they did. And they don't need reroll everything auras because they hit on 2s. And their reroll, like even Trajan Valoris, only gives a reroll 1s to hit and a reroll 1s to wound. And I'm pretty sure bikes would be core. So the only thing
I think everything
that's 8th edition about them
they'll
is
have OBSEC too.
They all have OBSEC, which is good. But so the only thing that's like 8th edition-y about them is that their auras affect their vehicles. So Caladius tanks are still a thing. But you bring Caladius tanks into this, Admech Drakari multi-melta meta, and they're just going to get evaporated. So, yeah. But no, it's so I'm excited to see what happens with the Custodes. I have some Custodes on the behind me in the case, because I've always thought, like, even from 4th edition, I've always thought the fluff was really cool about them. So I'm excited to see what they do.
Oh yeah.
But...
Well, that's awesome. All right, so moving on. So we had the Martial Challenge. Now it's time for the Hobby Challenge. How did your Hobby Challenge for the last month go? Painting a vehicle.
I painted a vehicle with a small asterisk. So I was gluing his arm on right before the show, and it fell on my floor, and it's somewhere on the floor in my office underneath one of my things. I can't find it. But I painted my...
Oh, nice. Yes.
So, magnetized the guns. Yeah, and I dropped the other shoulder. I dropped the other shoulder, so I'm sorry about that. But, yeah, I did...
it still counts.
Did some edge highlighting on him a little bit. These things are actually
Give him
really
the
nice
Deathwing colors.
Deathwing colors. So, yeah, put the little banners on him so he's a relic. But, yeah.
Yep.
And I've got magnets on the bottom of the shoulders so that I could drop the heavy plasma cannons on him if I want.
Oh, nice. Yep.
So, yeah.
I like that configuration. All right. Well, I put paint on a model. So I got my Primaris land speeder. I got paint on him, and I put most of them together. But like, I still need to do like the thing that goes on a Talon Master to make it a Talon Master instead of a land speeder. Like I put one of those on there, so I still got to finish painting that and some of the other drapery. I still got to do like eyeballs and
I'll count
all
it.
The buttons and stuff.
I'll count it.
You'll accept?
Yeah, I count it. No, it's
awesome.
You know, there's still a little bit more I could probably do on this guy, but it's definitely about ready. So.
Oh well, I appreciate that because like I basically ended up having one day to paint him, and that was my first day off during the week from work since I got this job. And not only was I working on him, but right across from me here are the 13 Terminators that I also had to start painting for this tournament that's in 2 weeks now, because I'm running the 2 giant blobs of Terminators and then blobs of Blade Guard, and I'm just gonna, because it's a team event, I'm just gonna run one of those. I'm just gonna sit here and score points because that's what the team needs.
Yeah.
And I'm like scrounging all the Terminator bits and bits boxes I have to make sure I have enough. Like I got some guys upstairs in some LA's totally awesome, like stripping the old paint because they were an eBay purchase and scrubbing it with an old toothbrush and then having to clean out the sink because I'm getting blue paint all over the place. So I can then, I have to like file them because the person didn't clean their nubs or their mold lines, and then I got to reprime them, and I got to add like their Deathwing knife and some iconography to make them more Deathwing instead of just the generic Black Reach starter box Ultramarine Terminators. And then I'll be pretty close to having all the Terminators I need for this tournament.
Yeah, I painted 10 relic Terminators with lightning claws and combi bolters. Another relic Terminator that's actually Cataphractic Captain from Heresy.
Oh, nice.
That was used as a sergeant. I painted 3 more Blade Guard, 2 more Melta attack bikes, a Ravenwing Apothecary, and a Strike Master. Oh, let me show you the Strike Master.
Oh yeah, let's get a look at this guy. Since there isn't an actual kit for this guy, it's kind of, it's up to your own imagination how to make one. So I think they're pretty neat. I just took Deathwing Knights and replaced the hooded heads with like a different head, and that's what mine is.
I also rebased all of my bikes onto turn my camera. Rebased all my bikes onto the fat pills, not the skinny pills.
Oh yeah.
So this is my
all that move blocking.
That's the Sergeant with the Power Sword.
Nice.
I use him as a champion as well. Then I'm actually pretty happy how these Terminators came out.
Oh yeah, that guy's good looking.
Yeah, so I differentiated the combat squads. One set has blue lightning claws, the other set has purple. Oh, and my Phobos my Phobos captain.
Oh yeah, look at those wings.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yep. And where's the old Strike Master? Where's the old Strike Master? There he is.
Nice.
So this is the Deathwing. This is actually the Deathwing Champion model.
Okay.
But so I took his. Normally, he's holding the pole arm like this.
Yeah.
So I cut it. I cut the wrist, turned it so it's planted like that, and then cut some of the bits off the top so it kind of looks like an axe. And then I put the bottom half back on so it looks like a long-handled hammer. And then this is a storm shield from, I think, Pop Goes the Monkey. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks pretty good. It looks about
So,
the right size
I'm
too.
pretty happy with how it came out. As I said, it's a good utility model. So yeah, I did, and then for my Devastators, just making the case, I got these are Rogue Trader missile launchers.
Well, let's go. I love the classics.
Rebased onto 32 mil bases.
Oh yes, beautiful classic minis.
Yep, and then this is actually one of the first models I ever bought. This model weighs like several ounces because it's solid metal.
Yes.
So, yeah. So yeah, beautiful. There we go.
Awesome. So for the November show, you got any ideas for a hobby challenge?
Talon Master. I think we've done characters, we've done vehicles. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a Green Wing unit. I'm not sure. Or we could do like something a little more creative, do like a character conversion.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, I love converting, so I'm down with I know one of the big ones for people is doing like a Primaris Azrael. Like that's a pretty popular conversion people have been working on.
I actually bought a Mephiston with the intent of converting him into something because I love that long flowing robe. So maybe, yeah. I don't know. Maybe we could do a either a character conversion or if you have something that you actually do need to do for an upcoming event, you could do that. But,
well, I have a conversion here in the sense that I have to get these infiltrators done. I didn't want to have to buy new ones, so I have some of those learned how to paint intercessors that I just didn't put all the right pieces on, and I was sawing the backpack antenna bits with a big army painter hobby saw off my dudes, and was attaching them to here, and then putting the heads, and then finding extra shoulder pads to get them to fit. To make infiltrators out of models I already had, because I'm not going to spend $30 on an eBay purchase, or God forbid $60 on more sprues while I'm still trying to move. I need to cut down on sprue mountain, and so I got real creative. So I'm always down to get creative with my hobby box and my leftover sprue, because I got a lot of it. So yeah, let's do that. Character or unit conversion.
Character conversion,
Something
or like a Green Wing unit or something.
Yeah,
I'm down.
Excellent.
As an update, I did say last month I was going to try and work on a Land Raider Achilles. That's still in the works. I bought a Land Raider. It's sitting down here on the floor next to me. And I bought a lot of the bits, but I figured if I'm actually going to build a freaking Land Raider, I'm going to a Forge World Land Raider. I'm going to church it up. And I bought a Land Raider special armor kit from Cyborg Miniatures in Poland. That's not here.
Yeah.
So when that comes, I'll do that. Maybe that's something I don't think I'm going to be able to work on it over Christmas because I'm actually traveling off island. But
nice.
Yeah. So yeah, but that'll just kind of happen in the background. I really do want to try the Land Raider Achilles. So camera shaking.
Oh yeah, no, and Cyborg makes some excellent stuff. I have a bunch of their Dark Angels themed terrain that I'm going to use for display board someday. So that's definitely some good stuff. All right. Well, in our community interaction section, we didn't get any comments on the last one. So we've got our first anniversary coming up, right? Because we started recording December last year, which seems kind of crazy. We're almost to December again.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
it's been a year.
maybe we can find. Speaking of the giant piles of extra sprues, and this end, it's basically on my end because it'll probably be crazy to ship something from Hawaii. So I'll make it my task. Just
flat rate box.
Okay.
It's good. It's fine.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But try and find, if there's something gathering dust that you wouldn't mind parting with, I'll dig through my boxes of stuff, and maybe we could do like a giveaway, and then, we have the next podcast be like, hey, leave comments, because we're going to pick some of that comments between now and, the end, when we get ready to record the December show, so that we'll have the November one out, and be like, somebody's going to get something. Maybe that's, we can drop that in some Discords we're in, and some Facebook groups, and see if we'll get some more interaction, so that way people we get some comments so we can interact, because we're here for the people.
All right.
Well, that's what we got for this month. So thank you all for listening to this month's episode of the Path to Redemption, the Warhammer 40,000 Dark Angels podcast. Our next episode will come out in November, and hold on, yes, please subscribe. And comment below, right? Because we're talking about, picking some of that comments below for maybe winning some stuff, so that would be a really good idea. if you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on Spotify or any of your other preferred podcasting services. If there's any way to contact us through those, or just jump over here to YouTube and find this video and comment there. Get yourself on the list. And last but not least, we'd like to thank Purple Planet for the use of their music on the intro and the outro. And until next time, I'm Bailey from Dank Wargaming.
It's Heath with Table Over White.
Stay loyal, Angels.